We've been front-running the news of a U.S. stock market crash going all the way back to 2008, okay? So again, the Paul Glenchur call, for example, that the probability was rising of Trump tariffs being considered illegal.
Last night, as we anticipated, the Court of International Trade ruled that Trump's tariffs, the Liberation Day tariffs, not all tariffs, but the 10% across the board, the threat of the reciprocal tariffs and such, those were basically deemed invalid as violating the statute under which he asserted the power to impose those tariffs, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Remember, as we said, that statute doesn't even mention tariffs. And he tried to use the provision in there that says you can regulate imports for a national emergency as a basis for all the sweeping tariff initiatives that he has proposed through his executive orders or mandated. So the court says those aren't legal. It's an overreach under the statute. They'll seek a stay pending, further appeals of this case. It's dicey whether he can get it. He's already suspended some of the worst parts of the tariffs, for 90 days, et cetera, while he tries to negotiate trade deals. But the problem you have is while that limits some of the immediate impact of those tariffs, they still threaten business planning. It causes uncertainty, and you still have the 10%. And the underlying question about legality, I think, is trending pretty strongly against President Trump on this. So the courts might be reluctant to sort of indulge him, even though he's going to claim you're upsetting my foreign policy and international trade negotiations with this decision. So anyway, we go into the stay in the appeals process now. We continue to move forward. Finally, I'll just say there are other statutes that deal with tariffs, including the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 122 of that, 301 of the 1974 Trade Act. There are other provisions that allow the president to pursue tariffs. They just have burdens, procedural burdens, limits on the duration of tariffs, the size of tariffs, things he wanted to avoid by using the Emergency Economic Powers Act. But now he's going to have to sort of adhere more to sort of the mainstream tariff laws, most likely going forward from here. And he's already started that with pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, using the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 as the basis to try to pursue eventually tariffs in those segments. So anyway, that's it. I don't know, maybe JT might want to chime in a little bit on the politics here, but
no, just the steel and aluminum tariffs stay on too, right?
Yeah, those stay on. Those on different staff, right?
One more sentence, Paul, on the next steps. There's the appeal process, but this 3-judge panel is pretty strong in their ruling, were they not?
They are, and they didn't get into a lot of, they could have gotten into constitutional questions and whether or not, persistent trade deficits is a sufficient, quote unquote, extraordinary, unusual threat for national emergency purposes. They didn't get into all of that. They kept it pretty narrow, said, look, the statute says you can do this. It doesn't say you can do what you're doing, and so it's illegal. They're pretty much bread and butter, straight down the middle in terms of what judges do. The government will argue, the president will say, look, I'm the president, foreign policy, international trade, courts, you should stay out of it. But all they're saying is there are statutes, Mr. President, and you have to follow them. That's the law. And so that's where we go from here.
I mean, he started talking about this on the call back in April, okay? Even as late as we're old enough to remember last week on May the 22nd, that's what his note said. I mean, if you don't subscribe to the call, you didn't read the note, that's not my problem. It still happened.
Thanks for watching Hedgeye on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to click on the button below there. Subscribe to our YouTube page. You can also follow the link in the description to our website to get even more great investing content.